Hi guys, this is going to be our lecture for Unit 3. I just wanted to thank you for your patience this week. Well, I don't want to dwell on it too much, but I had surgery. I mentioned that I had gotten surgery on my right foot, and I overexerted myself, I think Sunday and Monday, and it just caught up with me. So yeah. So anyway, I wasn't feeling so good the past 2 days, but I rested a lot and I'm better. So thank you for your patience, and this will be the Unit 3 lecture. As I said in the announcement that I posted for the assignments for this unit, just if you did them already, and by them I mean your initial post to the discussion question and then your responses to the posts of your classmates. If you did them already using the information contained in the readings, that's fine. Don't worry. I know usually I tell you to watch the lecture before you do any of the assignments, but considering that you're not gonna be getting the lecture until tomorrow, Thursday morning, I didn't want you to have to wait. So don't worry. You won't be penalized in any way. Whatever the assignments that you've started thus far without having seen the lecture. But what I would advise you to do is watch it today. I always try to go over the most important points from the chapters that are assigned, and I try to make it helpful to you, so when you get a chance, just watch it. So what I'm going to discuss with you, the readings, the chapters that were assigned were 6 and 7, but as you know, if you looked at them, chapter 6 is mostly focused on memos and letters. And I always wonder how widely used memos are in the workplace every time I teach this class, because I don't really see evidence of it, and I always go and try to do a little bit of research to see if I'm right on that. And it seems that the consensus is that memos were used sort of before emails came along, and that they were a favorite form of communication in the workplace. But now that email has arrived, email is king. So I'm not going to go over all of the details for sending memos, because it would probably put you to sleep right now. But I'll just say that memos were typically used as internal documents, meaning sent within a company or organization to personnel within, like one person within an organization to another. So they were primarily used as internal documents, and they're not really used that much. I have never encountered one in my professional life at Kane, and that's been, I'm trying to think now, 8 or 9 years. I think I don't, and then there was a time in my life that when I worked before email, but that was so long ago, I don't even know if it's relevant to bring it up now. So what I'm mostly going to focus on here is chapter 7, which goes over email. So email, we all know, is really important, and it's definitely the preferred method of communication. And I just want to say a few things as someone who grew up before email. It's really amazing if you just stop for a second and think about how much email has changed our lives and the world and the way we communicate. I can remember being in college, and there were friends who at different colleges around the country who I corresponded with, and we wrote each other letters. So I can remember, waiting for the mail to come to see how my friends were doing. And when I applied to graduate school, it was all through snail mail, as they call it. So it was long ago, but not that long ago. And yeah, it's just really amazing to stop and think how much email has revolutionized our lives and the way we communicate. You can write something and send it to someone on the other side of the globe in seconds, and you can get a response also in seconds, and the cost is very negligible. So email is a really great medium, but something about email that we probably don't think about much is that it isn't very private, even though we may intend it to be. Hackers can get through any firewall, and most companies and organizations have IT personnel whose job consists of combing through employee emails just to make sure that there's nothing inappropriate. So basically, well, a good rule of thumb is never to send anything by email that you wouldn't want to be printed on the first page of a newspaper, and also to never assume that anything you send through email is private, because anything sent through email can end up anywhere. So that would probably be the downside. So writing a proper email, I think it's something that a lot of us, myself included, take for granted because it seems just so quick and easy. But because emails do tend to be so quick and easy, everything that is contained within them really matters. Something like the subject line or the salutation, and by the salutation I just mean the greeting. The absence of a salutation, which may seem like a really small thing, but it actually is considered bad form, and it comes across as really rude. So because the content of an email is because there's less of it, everything that's in it really matters. So it's important to know the do's and the don'ts, and that's what we're going to go over. So in general, the purpose of an email is, in the business and professional world, is to make information as clear and concise as possible. And also, email creates a trail or a lasting record of what we've done. So not only is it a really speedy and convenient method of communication, but it also creates a lasting record. So, and I'm sure you've all experienced this. If there's a project going on at work, or there's a meeting, or there's something going on and you don't remember the exact date or the exact consensus, you could go back to the email chain, and it serves as a permanent record. So it's very helpful in that way also. And that means that what you say in email is even that much more important, because there may be other people going back to something that you have written to reference it. So you always want to make sure that you are in your best form when writing something by email. So the book reminds us that, or of an incident back in 2005, which was a long time ago, but anyway, it reminds us that, or it tells us that in 2005, the president of Boeing, the CEO, was fired for because the details of an extramarital affair that he was having with a colleague were leaked through email. And interestingly, they were leaked by someone within the company, so I guess someone in Boeing didn't like him, but the result of it was that he lost his job. And he did not lose his job because of any specific company policies that he violated, but I'm going to say this, the explicit nature of his emails called his character into question. And Boeing is a company that does a lot of contracts with government, and it's important that they can be trusted and they're considered ethically upright. So to have this CEO, in this light as someone who had an extramarital affair with a colleague, that reflected poorly on Boeing. So it led to him being fired, and just leads back to the point, or the lesson, that you should never send anything by email that you wouldn't want to be printed on the first page of a newspaper. Never send anything in anger. Always wait 24 hours. Never send anything just as a general rule, don't use your company email to send personal emails. It's just better to, as a general rule, not do that, because then you can't get in any bigger trouble for sending any kind of inappropriate messages. So emails aren't private, I guess, is the takeaway. Even though you may think they are not, and they never are. So always go forward with that understanding. Let's see. Oh, and then just one more. To piggyback on that, if there's any thought that you have or any information that you're thinking of that you don't want others to know that you have or that you're thinking, don't put it in email. So now we're going to go over some email do's and don'ts. So the first one is pretty simple. So emails are intended to be short, efficient forms of communication. And the intention is that you should be able to read an email on a single computer screen without any scrolling. So the ideal length of an email means that the recipient, the person you're sending it to, doesn't have to scroll down to finish reading it. They can read the whole email just on that one computer screen. That's an ideal. So what is it suggested that you do if you need to send a longer email? You should either put the longer portion of the email, put it in an attachment, and then refer to it in the shorter portion, and also briefly describe it. Or don't send this communication as an email. Put it on paper, and maybe send it as a letter. Let's see. So in a professional setting, kind of something that we said earlier in the semester is that email is about transferring information quickly and efficiently, because in the business world, time is money. So nobody wants to have to spend any kind of time figuring out what an email means. And that's why emails are supposed to be so great, because they're short and concise, very to the point. The more concise your email is, the better. Just using myself as an example, when I first started working at Kane, one thing I definitely noticed, and I'm unlike you all, you guys are all going into like accounting and finance and various different areas of the business world, and I've always been focused on more. I've always been an English major, wanted to be a writer at one point, so I've always really been in the teaching world and in the art world. And so when I first started working at Kane, one thing I noticed, and this is even as a professor, not someone in the business world, but I noticed how many of the emails I got from supervisors were just very concise and very short. And I'll just say it took me probably about a semester to realize that, because I had never taken a business writing class. But so it's definitely important that your emails are concise. I don't know if you've ever gotten an email that's a giant block of text. I know when I get those, I avoid them, and I definitely procrastinate when it comes to opening them. No one wants to get a big, huge block of text. So in terms of length, the general rule with email is that you want to keep your paragraphs short. The recommended length is 6 to 8 lines, and you should skip a space between each paragraph. So let's say you have 2 paragraphs or 3. You want to skip a single space between each paragraph, and then the first line of each paragraph should not be indented. Okay? You want to be sure that the language that you use is precise and specific. What does that mean? I'll give you an example. So I can tell you that I drive a car. I'm not using precise language. I'm not really telling you anything, because if I drive, you probably already are going to guess that it's a car, because I probably don't drive like a tricycle, right? Or I can tell you that I drive a 2023 Jeep Renegade. So that's not really it's maybe 2 more words. It doesn't take me longer to write it, but it gives the recipient much more information. So that is what, when we say use precise language, that's what precise language is. It's like working smarter rather than harder. So you want to make sure that all of your language is as precise as possible. You want to be sure that you cut out any language that is redundant, any language that is wordy, and you want to just try to be concise as much as possible. And something that you probably aren't aware of, it's actually harder to write a short or concise letter than it is to write a long letter. I used to have a professor in graduate school, and every week we had to read a different book, and she had us write 250 pages, a 250-page response paper. 250 words. 250 words is about 1 page. And I just remember how hard it was every week to write a compelling response in just 1 page, and that was typed double-spaced. So the lesson is, or the point is that it's actually pretty difficult to get your point across in fewer words, but that's always what you want to go for. You want to be as to the point as possible and as clear as possible. And if you're ever, with most emails, we don't have the luxury of holding it 24 hours to go back and proofread it before sending it. But if you are ever sending an email that's really important, say a cover letter, or if you are trying to gain a place in an internship, I always, if I'm ever sending an email that is really, really, really important and I can wait, I can delay sending it for 24 hours, I always do that, because if you can give yourself a little time to get distance from the writing, you will have more objective eyes, and you'll be able to see the flaws in it much. They'll stand out to you. So if you're ever writing something and you can allow yourself the benefit or the luxury of 24 hours and then going back to revise it, I would highly recommend that. Let's see. So a quick example of wordy language. When I said don't use wordy language, sometimes I'll often get papers from students that begin, in today's day and age. You don't need to say that that's wordy. You can just say today. So you don't want to be wordy. If you can say something in one word, don't say it in 5. That's the basic, that's what being wordy is. It means you're saying something in more words than you need. Let's see. So here are some more guidelines for keeping an email short. You want to consider the needs of your audience. Remember, your audience is, the recipient is most likely a busy person who receives anywhere from dozens of emails in a day to possibly hundreds. I know I receive dozens. And so if this person has to go through all those emails in a single day, they are going to appreciate that yours is short and concise and to the point. See. Oh, subject line. This is probably one of the most important things I'm going to say in this lecture. The subject line of an email is so important. You really want to make it count. So here's a bad subject line. Important. That doesn't tell the recipient anything. A good subject line would be, today's meeting is canceled. So you always want your subject line to be as specific as possible. You want to give the person as much information as possible, obviously without, going on too long. But so rather than just saying important, you want to say what it is that is important. So that's one of the most important parts of the email, is the subject line. You should always really make it count. And then I already said to use short paragraphs. The standard is from 6 to 8 lines per paragraph, and then again you separate each paragraph by skipping a line. If you can ever use a list, it is advisable that you do so. Why? Because lists are more reader friendly. So if you can ever make a list, do so. Be sure that your email is complete. There is nothing worse than sending an email and realizing, oh, I forgot to add this or that. So if the email is not complete, it either means the recipient is going to have to send you another email asking you a question, and you're going to have to send another one back, or that you're going to have to send another email. So before you hit send, always make sure that the email is complete. And what does that mean? It means that you have included all relevant information. So you should avoid, I don't know if they're still called emoticons, but emojis or any cutesy symbols. I know sometimes I'll put the happy face at the end. You're not supposed to do that. That's a don't. You're also is very important that you use proper upper and lowercase letters. That's using all lowercase is kind of considered something else that's intended to be cute, but it is not. Using all uppercase, if I don't know if you know this, I didn't when I was your age. I had to be told by a professor, but when you use all uppercase, it's like yelling at someone. And when I was in graduate school, I didn't know that. I'm not as computer savvy as you guys. I didn't grow up with computers. But I can remember I sent a professor this email, and it was really important, and I put it in all caps, and she wrote back. She was very, very nice. she told me that it was like I was yelling at her. So you never want to write a subject line or an email in all caps. It's like you're yelling at the recipient. Make sure that your email address is respectable. So you don't want it to sound, you don't want to have an email address like Party Guy 2024 or Hot Girl 21. You know, I think the consensus, the majority opinion, is that an email that has your name in it is probably the most sensible. But as long as it's not something that's inappropriate, you'll probably be okay. Another rule of thumb is that you want to keep the chain short. Now, what does that mean? Let's say that there's an email has multiple recipients. You are one of them. You are responding to it. Let's say that there are already 3 responses and now you're responding. That should be the last. You actually could consider starting a new chain there. The recommended length is supposed to be about 3. I don't know if people really follow that, because I'm always getting email chains that go way past 3 responses, but officially they're supposed to stop around 3. This is super important. Use a salutation no matter who you are writing to, whether it's a personal, professional, any email that you're writing, use a salutation. What is a salutation? It's a hello and then the person's name. So let's say you're writing to, I don't know, John Smith. So you would just say, hi, John. Hello, John. Dear John. Good morning, John. Any of those is okay. But what you don't want to do is just forget a salutation, because that's interpreted as very rude. And I don't know if you've ever received an email that doesn't have a salutation, but it kind of, it doesn't really come across as, I don't know, as very friendly or polite. So always include a salutation, and then you always want to include a closing, and it could be sincerely, Mia Fury, regards, Mia Fury, cheers. You probably don't want to use cheers if this is something to your boss, or if this is in a professional setting. It may be better to go with something a little more professional or classic, like sincerely or best regards. But I think if you remember to use a closing, and then think about who you're writing to, who you're communicating with, and the subject, and use your best judgment, and you should be okay. And that about does it for emails. That went more quickly than I thought it would. Let's see. So, okay, so I will go through and check your discussion questions today. Well, it's Wednesday night, late Wednesday night, so tomorrow morning, and comment on them. If you have any questions for me, please don't be afraid to message me either within Canvas or through email, because I was out sick the last 2 days, and I just want to make sure that you guys are okay and feel comfortable with the material. So if you do have any questions, please don't be shy, and I hope that this was helpful to you. Bye.